of Commissioners. Would all those who are willing and able please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Grant us, O Lord, light to our understanding, prudence in our investigating, foresight in our planning, sincerity in our deliberating, the grace to follow truth in our judgment. Help us to be moved in our decision neither by fear nor by self-interest, and to do our work faithfully. May we respect the authority vested in us, for thou art the source of all authority, and may use our directives for the common good and for thy honor and glory. Amen. Amen. Thank you all. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Regovich.
Here.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Present.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Here. Okay, we have before us the meeting minutes of the regular meeting of July 27, 2023, August 31, 2023, and September 7, 2023. Do I have a motion to approve same, waiving the reading thereof?
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes. Okay, this brings us to our first public comment portion. Is there anyone wishing to address the board at this time? Sir.
Chris Baharia, Jackson Street, Painesville, Ohio. Yes, I see in our commissioners meeting today, we have a special resolution for prayer for Israel. And I also would like to say have a prayer for all people that are suffering problems and discrimination and terrorism. And as being a member of the World Clergy Association, which is a conglomerate of 46 world religions, it is time to raise what they call the family flag. And so symbolically, I'm raising that here. It's a symbol of God, parents, children, and grandchildren. And we pray that the families will be representative of where love can abide. And where love can abide in the family, it will abide in the nation, and will abide in the world. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, anyone else wishing to address the board at this time? All right, moving on to our first agenda item. Oh, yes, ma'am. Oh, you're killing me here, Jennifer. So, well, I thought she was the, forgive this moment of correction. Our clerk is keeping me out of trouble, ladies and gentlemen. So, well, I guess we'll just go right into, we do have the, see, this is what happens when we don't have all of our notes in place. You know, great,
Yes.
we're there. Faith, nobody can say it better than you.
Okay.
And forgive me for not having that note to throw this to Faith, but that was totally my muff there.
No worries, no worries. I want to tell you all a little story about one of my employees, and I have asked for a special resolution for her heroism. So here's the story, and then we'll get down to business. Most of elected officials, we all have state associations or professional associations, so we attend those monthly meetings. I do take folks with me, especially depending on whatever the training is. This was actually a legal conference where municipal clerks were invited. It was a 4-day deal. This was the last day of the conference. We had broken for lunch. So I'll tell you the story. It was in Columbus. On the last day of the conference, we were all eating lunch at the Nationwide Hotel and Conference Center. There were other conferences going on, so this place was just packed. We were packed with, clerks around the state and their deputies, as well as other conference guests. A woman at the table next to us began choking. Someone else was attempting to do the Heimlich maneuver, but was failing miserably. Taylor, seeing this, immediately got up and said, "You're not doing it right." Those of you who know her, it's just, she's take charge. She got up, the woman came to her because she was already turning blue and she was not, the other person was not able to get this done. After the second time of doing the Heimlich, she managed to dislodge the piece of food in the woman's throat. And then we just went back to eating. There was no, fanfare or anything like that. But I am certain that the deputy clerk from Warren County would not be here today if it was not for Taylor. She would have died, choked and died, right there in front of all of us, if it wasn't for the heroic actions of Taylor. She never seeks recognition. She doesn't do anything for applause or for her own self-interests. She acts based on her own moral compass, and that is spot on every single time. I'm so proud to know Taylor Philbach, and the world is most definitely a better place because she is in it. So, I'd ask the commissioners to make a special resolution recognizing the heroic acts of our own Taylor Philbach. Take it away, guys.
And here it is.
Okay.
So if you want Taylor, come on up, and it looks like you got your whole team with you here.
I do. Our whole team.
There you go. Anything you want to say? The microphone is yours.
It was just, a flight or fight. You see it happen. When I grew up, my grandmother was a certified CPR, and we had to take a babysitting course. I think I was in 4th and 5th grade. And this is like a week-long course where you learn how to do CPR, the Heimlich, if a baby's choking and what to do. Well, after I did that at the conference, I was kind of amazed when I said, well, you guys would have all done this for me, right? And they're like, we don't know how to do the Heimlich. And I'm like, you don't know who Chokin' Charlie is? Come on, guys. Like, you guys know who Chokin' Charlie is, right? Okay. Well, that kind of scared me. So then I'm thinking, we should probably look into this. I think maybe departments need to look into showing who we work with, because it can be your friend, someone you work with, you're just at a restaurant, your neighbor. I mean, there's many different instances, so we're here to help, and that's what we do. We're public servants first and foremost.
Well said.
So,
Well said. Gentlemen,
Well, thank
anything
you.
want to add?
I'd like to say job well done. You were put in that position, that place for a reason. And my cousin actually had to do it twice in 1 year at a restaurant at lunch while he was at work to a complete stranger. So you're right, we should all know those basic needs. Fortunate enough to have 2 lifeguards in my family, so they've been through all that.
and that's what I did too. All my jobs throughout my life, you get these skills that, you don't realize all the skills you have until something like this happens, and then it just instantly clicks to you and you do it.
So job well done. and
Thank you.
Thanks for representing Lake County well.
I appreciate it.
Mr. President,
Sir.
I would second Commissioner Regovich's comments and thanking Taylor for going above and beyond and being prepared, and then helping her fellow deputy clerk in her most dire need. This is not the first time we've had one of our county employees come before us because they've rescued someone with the Heimlich maneuver from a fire, from a dangerous situation, and in none of those cases was it part of their job description. I think it strongly reflects the family culture that we have here in Lake County government, that we don't say, that's not my job, or I'm not paid to train for this. We take care of each other in Lake County, and you exemplify that standard, Taylor. So thank you for your great public service as you work day to day and in this one extraordinary moment as well. And thank you for inspiring your colleagues to reach that same standard of caring about their fellow neighbor.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Very nice. Well, you know the routine, young lady.
Yep, let's do it.
Okay. I think that's what we call a graceful recovery. Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right. So the first agenda item.
In special resolutions, resolution proclaiming October 2023 Breast Cancer Awareness Month in Lake County, Ohio.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. President,
Sir.
I don't think there's a family in Lake County that hasn't been touched by breast cancer. It's become an all too ubiquitous disease. And this resolution isn't simply about recognizing survivors and encouraging those who are struggling as a family to survive. It's about raising awareness about a disease that in some cases can be prevented, in other cases can be addressed earlier with better results. My mother is one of the millions of people who have suffered from breast cancer, and thank God right now she's in remission. But awareness and treatment are critical to helping families to keep their loved ones and keep them healthy. And so I'm grateful that in the smallest way, Lake County Commissioners can contribute to that awareness in October.
Well said. Mr. Egovich, anything you want to answer?
I too have had two friends very recently just get through breast cancer. Luckily enough, they're doing well now. But it seems to me it's increasingly younger and younger in age. So the screenings are important, and we have to make sure that we maintain our healthcare facilities, hospitals. The shortage of nurses and things like that cannot get in the way of something like this, the pre-screenings and the things like that. So we often hear of doctors who aren't taking new patients and things like that. So we have to put a focus on that moving forward to prevent this and help along the way, because it just seems like it's more prevalent than ever. We hear, as Commissioner Pleshnik said, we all know somebody.
Well said, and I can say as a son, as a husband, as a father with two daughters, this has also touched our household, and early detection is critical. It is essential to positive outcomes, and yeah, it's more than just wearing your little pin. It's a little reminder of, hey folks, this is real. Early detection is, nobody likes to go through tests. For guys, it's that prostate exam. For women, it's the mammogram. I don't know who designed these tests, but oh dear Lord. It is necessary, and this is more than symbolic. This is real. Just talk it through, and young and old alike are very real. All right, if there's nothing further, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution proclaiming days of prayer for the people of Israel.
Move to approve.
Second.
And discussion, if I may. Lake County Board of Commissioners Resolution, October 12, 2023, proclaiming days of prayer for the people of Israel. Whereas the United States was the first nation to recognize Israel's statehood when it declared its independence in 1948, and whereas our two nations share deep beliefs in the values of democracy, freedom, and the rule of law, whereas we have maintained a 75-year alliance of mutual respect and support, and whereas in the early morning hours of October 7, 2023, the civilian people of Israel near the Gaza Strip were bombed in a surprise attack at the hands of Hamas terrorists. And whereas Hamas terrorists infiltrated Israel and committed terrible atrocities against the civilian population and indiscriminately murdered Israeli civilians, including infants and the elderly. And whereas the Lake County, Ohio, along with the state of Ohio, adamantly denounced these outrageous acts of violence and aggression against the people of Israel. Now therefore, the Board of County Commissioners in and for Lake County hereby declares Saturday, October 14, 2023, and Sunday, October 15, 2023, as days of prayer for the people of Israel, as they face this unprovoked invasion of their country. Gentlemen, anything you want to add?
Mr. President,
Sir.
first and foremost, as an individual, as a human being, I unequivocally support and stand with both the people and the nation of Israel. I recognize that a county commissioner doesn't stand as commander-in-chief of an army or make foreign policy, but this is a time when we all need to stand and be counted, both in showing our support and in condemning the evil of terrorism. This age has often been described as a post-truth society where there's, quote, two sides or more to every issue. I want to say there are only two sides to this issue, and they're very simple: good and evil. There is no moral equivalence. There is no justifying the violence of terrorism. There is no silver lining to it. It is simply evil. And to put it in our perspective, imagine a Taylor Swift concert, a Browns game, a school being attacked brutally with hundreds coming to thousands murdered. We would have no doubt in our minds that it needed to be stopped with all force immediately. There would be no question as to who was right and who was wrong, and we need to stand in that same unequivocal support with the people of Israel today. This is a battle of good and evil, and I am proud that the Lake County Board of Commissioners stand unequivocally, unanimously with the people of Israel.
Thank you. Commissioner Regovich?
I agree wholeheartedly with Commissioner Pleshnik, and we've all seen the tragedy unfold on news and the things that are happening in Israel. It is so tragic, and so a day of prayer is appropriate, that they can find peace in some way with the extended families that are even here in the United States, so that we can support them the best way we can, and I believe that is with the prayer.
Well said. I believe this is the appropriate time to also say that acts of anti-Semitism have been and continue to be on the rise. Incidents such as this punctuate that. There can be no tolerance for hate. We need to stand together. With that, Madam Clerk, roll call please.
Commissioner Regovich,
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik,
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton.
Yes. Thank you, John.
In the engineer's office, resolution to advertise for bids for the Payne Road retaining wall and bridge project in Leroy Township, Ohio, LCE project number 2022-014, bid opening November 8, 2023.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Jim, you gotta have something to say on this.
Yep, we're ready to move forward, and hopefully we're going to get a nice bid that's not going to cost us too much. But this project is both a bridge and a retaining wall, and there's also a culvert in there, so it's quite complicated. This is a project that's going to take a while, and I'm really happy to get it on the docket to get it moving.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your diligence in shepherding this through. All right, if there's nothing further, Madam Clerk, roll call please.
Commissioner Regovich,
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
In the Utilities Department, resolution certifying unpaid water and sewer sums and administrative charges to the Lake County Auditor.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call please.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
In Job and Family Services Department, resolution approving Lake County Department of Job and Family Services vouchers, date of warrant October 20th, 2023, in the amount of $527,463.79.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call please.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
In the Finance Department, resolution approving payment of bills as listed on the Commissioner's Approval Journal in the amount of $3,834,307.49.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechner.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution approving purchase orders as listed on the Commissioner's Purchase Order Approval Journal in the amount of $942,630.06.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechner.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution increasing appropriations for various general and non-general fund accounts.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechner.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution transferring cash and appropriations within various general and non-general fund accounts.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechner.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes. Very good. Moving on to departmental reports. Utilities.
Thank you, Commissioner. We had a bid opening yesterday to reconstruct a new lift station in Menor. Happy to say that we did get 6 bidders for the project, which is quite a few more than typical. We've been only getting a couple recently for these types of projects. We did have 1 bid under the engineer's estimate and a couple over, so we're happy to be able to move this project forward and be constructed probably early next year.
Excellent. Thank you.
Let's hope that trend continues.
We have our fingers crossed.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Job and Family Services.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good morning. I wanted to take an opportunity to thank Commissioner Hammercheck and Commissioner Regovich, who stopped over Job and Family Services yesterday. We held a chili cook-off yesterday at Job and Family Services to benefit the United Way of Lake County. So I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come over to our building during our lunch hour to judge chili. Thank you to my staff members who came through and made about 30 crock pots full of chili. Our whole building smelled like chili yesterday. So we're waiting for the final numbers from United Way on how much money we raised during that event, but thank you again. And then I also wanted to share that Job and Family Services is partnering with Livera again on Monday, October 23rd to host a carry-out event. Livera is going to be preparing dinners that can be bought and picked up at either Livera in Willoughby Hills or Job and Family Services here across the street. And Livera is going to be donating $20 back for each meal purchase to our Foster Parent Association. So again, that's going to be on Monday, October 23rd. If anyone is interested in purchasing dinners that night, please contact me and I can get you in touch with how to order those meals. Thank you. That's all today.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, County Administrator Jason.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brief update on the Public Safety Center. Continue to have our weekly 9 a.m. calls and or every third week in-person, more intensive design meetings. We had a design meeting in person, I think that was last week. It went extremely well. I believe HOK and their team are hitting all the marks that we expect, the sheriff's team expects. I'll defer to him, but I think we're really satisfied with the direction we're going. We're hitting our timelines. Subsequently, we had some interviews this week on potential design build firms. Very intense discussion on capabilities, past experience, vision, and how they foresee a potential project on our footprint across Erie Street. So everything is on time and going, in my opinion, swimmingly well. And I'll continue to update the board on a weekly basis. So, thank you.
Well said. Anything for Jason?
Mr. President,
Sir.
I would just thank County Administrator Jason Boyd for his leadership on this project, along with our sheriff and chief deputy. We really have an incredible team who is working on this problem. We all know, to quote President Hammercheck, that the jail was obsolete the day we received it. It was built terribly and frankly falling apart from day one. It's been a huge financial burden on Lake County. And while the typical jail should last 50-some years, unfortunately, year 32, 33, we're now in the very unenviable position of having to come up with over $100 million to pay for it. So while we are not pleased with past county administrators who presided over this project, Jason is to be commended for his great work along with the sheriff. And I think we're doubly benefited by the fact that the sheriff used to serve as captain in charge of the jail. He's an international subject matter expert on this issue. He's gone to Europe to talk about jail construction and administration, just to speak to other groups of law enforcement in other nations. We really have the absolute best people working on this project to make sure that, unlike the last jail, which was falling apart and is costing this county an enormous amount of money, this jail will be an asset that will stably last for a half century plus and will put us, in terms of our capital projects and building plan, in very strong stead for the future. But I know this hasn't been easy. There are many others who would not have been up to this task, Jason, but thank you for your hard work.
I appreciate the words, and there's a lot of people that have helped us get where we are. We have a long way to go. Not only the 50-year comment, but we also have the expansion. I know we've worked diligently on fee simple parcel acquisition. I appreciate the board's support for that. So not only will we have a long-term structure that'll serve the sheriff and the residents, but we'll also have the room to expand far, far down the road. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Madam Clerk.
Yes, next
And you
week.
look lovely in pink, by the way.
Thank you.
It's so nice to see you in bright colors.
It's borrowed, not mine.
Kind of like a wedding, something borrowed, something new.
That's right. I just wanted to mention that next week our meeting is a little different. It's going to be held on Tuesday, October 17th at 2 p.m. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Sorry, I had Monty Python go through my head, and now for something completely different. All right, on that, legal.
No reports, Commissioner.
Thank you, sir. So nothing completely different, no report. All right, moving on to old business. Do we have any old business? I do have an update on the public safety communication system. Obviously, our first responders rely heavily on our county radios. As we've talked previously, Director Stefanko of our telecommunications department, myself, Motorola Corporate, and our local Motorola representative, we've been trying to work through the approximately 2,000 radios that are at or near end of service life. Motorola is putting together a proposal knowing that, hey, we've got some challenges, and I've heard our administrator loud and clear that local communities have to take some responsibility here, but I'm getting the thumbs up, so thank you, sir. But somebody also has to be the one who says, hey, we're heading towards a cliff. So we are the administrators of the main system that all this works on. So we're working through it. Also, we're both Paul Stefanko and myself are representatives on the State Interoperability Executive Committee Board, and we meet in about 2 weeks. So we've got some. When we go down there, we also see it's not a count up as we're seeing with Ford Road. We're seeing a count down to when these radios will no longer function on the system. Some agencies have, in good faith, purchased some software updates. I know this might sound a little technical, but there's a double authentication. Unfortunately, it's a little bit like putting new tires on an old car. It only gets you so far. Motorola is being respectful of that and structuring some incentives to have cost recovery. They're also offering discounts because of the quantities, and they're also going to be proposing leasing options of 3, 5, and 7 years. And this is one of the sweeteners that really makes a lot of sense, as a full 7-year warranty. So that's a nice tip of the hat, because we've been trying to work so hard to make sure that our public responders, as well as our schools, have proper communications. So that continues to move forward. Is there any other old business to be updated on? All right, moving on to new business. Do we have any new business?
Mr. President?
Sir.
I'd like to thank Suzanne for yesterday. I know we had to work hard tasting all that chili, but the turnout was fantastic. And this is more to remind all the departments here in the county that we get to jail some people someday to also benefit United Way. So if there's somebody in your department you'd like to throw in jail, check out for your emails. I have some ideas, but it's kind of a fun way to raise money, just like yesterday was, and I think that's a good way to create a positive atmosphere here. And so keep your eyes open on your email, and you'll see the details coming down.
Well said. All right, I got to have some fun with this one. Some of the names of the chilies. Commissioner Pleshik was actually the designated survivor, just in case we did partake in some of those. So, and I have to admit, some of the more daring names were the ones that people were just a little afraid to sample. So,
I think Commissioner Pleshik would have loved being there.
I wish I could have made it. I was teaching young souls at Cleveland State University. But I will say, in the years that I used to judge competitions in Willoughby Hills, I thought the most clever name that folks used was Will Billy Chili. I'll never forget the Will Billy Chili.
I had Chili Chili Bang Bang yesterday.
Okay. Before Jennifer has to save us, if there's no other new business, we'll move on to somebody has to be the adult in the room. Thank you, Jennifer. All right, moving on to second public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board at this time? Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
Good morning. Lori Bobin, 6067 Ford Road. I want to say a couple of things before I read what I prepared to write. Read what I prepared to write here today. And first, I want to thank you, gentlemen, for acknowledging what's going on in the world today. It's not far from anyone's mind. It's an atrocity. It's just sadness, no matter where you look on any side. So thank you for acknowledging that. The second thing I want to acknowledge is, in light of what I wrote, I see that you passed resolution number 3, which does address Payne Road. But since we're not going to be driving on that anytime soon, I'm going to go ahead with the remarks that I have made for today. Since March of this year, there have only been a handful of commissioner meetings that I was unable to attend, but I made sure at some point to watch them on YouTube, and I can't express enough the growing frustration all of us feel watching elected officials go around and around over, first and foremost, a safety issue, like fixing the roads that your own legal team has numerous times told you was your responsibility. Quite sad, really, that in the past months you have had local trustees, fire chiefs, additional first responders, and local residents coming forward with grave concerns over the Ford, Payne, and possibly Blair Road closures. The whole situation. And yet another winter is upon us, adding to the already stressful situation set forth by your very delayed, meager steps forward to problem solving. Let me give you gentlemen some numbers, because personally, I drove around the impacted area yesterday and counted homes. 8 homes on Chadwick, 16 on Baker, 11 on Sealy, 6 on Payne, 91 on Ford, and 10 on Blair Road south of the Grand River. 142 homes. And that is just the core area, because there's a lot of affected areas that branch out from that for emergency responders to reach. Many of these homes contains families. And even the few homes with only a single resident still have loved ones, friends, and family who I'm sure would feel immense loss in the event of a tragedy. 412 days for Ford Road, 429 days for Payne Road, and 142 families impacted, and asked to wait even longer. Over the last several months, there only seems to be the voice of Commissioner Hamercheck that continues to reiterate the seriousness of the grave safety concern. Commissioner Regovich, you answered Ms. Bushman's question about the roads, that you're going to take it as it comes, and that you're waiting on Mr. Gills to put forth a cost plan. Then the commissioners could vote to support funding to be moved to the appropriate account. Mr. Gills stated last week that he cannot move forward from a certain point without money. So this circle just continues the cycle that we have listened to for months. Mr. Gills can't move forward without funds. The funds can't be allocated until Mr. Gills starts moving forward. Gentlemen, when does this absurdity end? When does it end? Commissioner Plenchnik, last week you made the statement that you have always been for opening Ford Road. Sir, while occasionally at meetings over the months that I have attended, yes, you have made statements of support, but they have always been followed by a but answer. The first but was that you wanted to wait to see if Mr. Gills could find additional dollars within his office or through grants. Then the but was waiting on the budget. Then wanting to make sure jail funding would not be jeopardized. Then you wanted plans in place to make sure this perfect storm of road collapse would never, ever, 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 ever happen again. The next book came as a request for an audit of the engineer's office. Sir, your own budget director, Mike Mattis, said at the September 7th work session that an audit might not necessarily reveal anything. And that is tax dollars, my tax dollars, that I would like to go towards fixing the roadways, not burnt in a bonfire of wasted spending. Even Mr. Mattis at that work section indicated that the three of you are totally of different opinions, and he needs some direction. So if Mr. Mattis, who works closely with you, is confused, imagine how we, the general public, feel. Mr. Plenchnik, you made a statement a couple of months ago in this very chamber to Mrs. Spencer, myself, and Mrs. Gaber that this is political. So let me ask you, why should we be pawns in your political games? Why should the safety of 142 families be put at risk while you carry out this game? It's very, very disheartening. And I do wish you would look up and acknowledge me when I'm speaking to you, but I guess you have that prerogative. 412 days and counting, and at least 142 families affected. How much longer must we wait? Surely a year from now, it will be a miracle if I'm able to drive completely down my road. And Mr. Plenchnik, since I too am Slovenian, let me say this. I hope I am not an old babushka-wearing stara baba before you and Mr. Regovich get on board with fulfilling your legal obligation to maintain your county roads. And for those of you who don't know Slovak, I said an old headscarf-wearing grandmother.
Thank you. Ma'am, I believe you wanted to comment?
Good morning, gentlemen. Tammy Gaber, 6023 Ford Road. Mr. Hammercheck, if I may, I have a couple of questions I'd like to ask and maybe get answered of the panel. Thank you. Once the engineering is completed and the commissioners are handed an estimated budget for the repair of Ford Road, will you immediately, without delay, fund the project and allow the bid? I recall I've been going back and look at some of the meetings. 7/20, a resolution was made to establish a fund. I believe Mr. Regovic, you took care of getting this put through, to put money into an account, and I quote, so that we won't have a delay once Mr. Gills is able to provide the funding. And that was the whole point of that. The money would be there. When the drawings were done, boom, we move forward. Isn't that correct? Isn't that what the resolution was for? I think that was a statement that was made. Am I wrong?
I can't say you're wrong. I can say there seems to be some disagreement as to what, when you say the engineering is completed.
The engineering's completed, the budget's completed, they can go out for bid, the money's there. That's what I understood.
And that is a reasonable interpretation of that, if I can.
That was the quote that was said on the meeting.
Yes, ma'am. But I'm going to look to our engineer as an example that's akin to that, but said a different way. Blair Road, for example. You've submitted for OPWC emergency funds. They have accepted that engineering estimate. In their eyes, and they do this for a living, that is what they consider adequate documentation to fund a project. Engineer Gills, if you want to comment on that, sir.
Well, yeah. Let me look at this in a little different fashion. There are basically two types of estimates. One estimate that we prepare prior to and along the way as the projects move through the process and make that are definitely available. We have just updated the Ford Road estimate, and from the bids that we have received through the summer, through Madison, work on those two walls, and on the bids or the estimate that we received from Burgess and Ipoh on Payne Road, and we have that estimate available, which there's, from that particular point, you could put money into that account based on that, because it can always be adjusted up and down depending on the final bids, which is the same situation we have with Payne right now. Even though that's the engineer's final estimate, the number depends on the bids. If the bids come in higher than a $2.9 million, there will be additional money required. If it comes in lower, you can use the difference for contingency, and then any money left over could be then used for Ford. Or you can wait until the engineers who are preparing the plans and specifications do their final estimate, and if it agrees with the my estimate or it's higher or lower, you can do it then. The point is that the money needs to be in this account prior to us going forward with an actual contractor's construction, because first of all, I don't think it's fair to the contractor to waste a whole lot of money coming up with a bid, or if we decide to negotiate, which is the way this is going, I'm going to end up recommending, I'm sure, to the board, to work up numbers, because it takes a lot of time and money for them to do that, particularly on these larger complicated projects, and with the supply problem the way it is, because they have to check with the supplier, see if it's available, when it's available, and so forth, so that we don't want to go forward until we know that we're going to be able to award a contract to them. Now, in this particular circumstances, the way this is going, I'm sure it's going to be difficult to say no, but that's a possibility. So that's kind of how these projects are handled. You can either do it up front and adjust it, you can wait until you get the bids and adjust it, you know, it's really up to the board in this particular case, because they're the ones that we're asking, pleading for, whatever else, for the money.
So my point in putting such a fine line to that is, although you're asking a very reasonable question, it's a very complex.
It is complex, but it's very simple. It's a very simple, complex answer. You establish the fund.
Mr. President,
Sir, ma'am, if
This-
you would yield.
the fund was established for Williams Road, which was an emergency project, so we didn't go out to bid on it.
I thought it was established for all the roads.
It is, but the first one was Williams Road.
Yes.
On the engineer's timeline.
Right,
So we funded that.
yes,
Then we did the next project.
Right.
Funded that.
yes.
If we just put money in there now, it gives us a lot of different, it takes away some other options if we go forward. If we're
Yes.
asking for more money in the spring, because Mr. Engineer, are you not working on the engineering for that bridge right now?
Matter of fact, we are, and have been working on it for quite some time.
So we're on his timeline, and when it's time to come up, we may want to bond that. We may want to do other things to fund that.
That's exactly my point. Exactly my point. Because if you establish this, and I quote, that so the money would be in the account when the engineer is ready to take on the project. When he's done with the engineering. So that there would be no delays, like going out for a bond issue or going, that's not what was said in the meeting. Go back and listen to it.
We have, as they come.
I understand as they come,
So the engineering is not going to be done till after the first of the year,
and I'm well aware.
and we talked about going to bid on that.
Yeah, I'm well aware.
We'll have the final cost of that bid. At that point, we can decide, do we put the money in there, or do we do it?
But then you're looking at, okay, in your scenario, okay, how long does it go to for a bond issue? How long does that process take?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I'm
Does
not sure.
a bond issue have to be put on a ballot?
No.
No, it's your bond issue, right? But you have to go to
We issue
underwriters
bonds.
and get,
Absolutely.
and
But
how long does that process
those-
take?
Those things happen before the fact. So when we talked about Blair Road, we talked about other roads, we talked about bonding the whole thing at one time.
Okay,
And the process, the conversations already were had before we made the decisions to fund
okay.
it.
So he tells me next Tuesday that the engineering's done, and he said, here's the plans, and I'm gonna be hypothetical here. Here's the bid amount that we need to do this road. How long does it take from that moment on to go get a bond issue?
It depends on what part of the process here, what time of the year we're in, because we have budgets coming up, we have all these other things coming up. Do we budget it? Do we do, so that we have a lot of decisions to make when we go into that.
So we're looking
So
at.
it's timing.
So we're looking at a month, 2 months, 6
I don't
months,
believe it.
a year?
Again, I can't answer how long it takes, depends on when we start. If we have the conversations early enough, like we did it previously, to go down that road, we knew what we were gonna go, how long I think it can happen fairly quickly.
So why not just fund the road? Why not just fund the road? We've listened at nauseum, and the money is there. If you go to a bond issue, we're going to be looking at, okay, he's done with his engineering, he's got his estimate, he's ready to go out for a bid. Then we have all this time delayed because we have to go for a bond issue, and we don't know what the time frame is because there's all these factors entered into it. We're tired of the delays. This is the point.
But that's
Just
the thing,
get it
you're not-
done.
He's engineering as we go. There is no delay. We're on his
Yes,
schedule.
I'm not talking about the delay for engineering. Engineering,
Well, that
when
has to
he's
happen
done,
first.
bring it to you, provide the money. We've been hearing about what money is available. Provide the money. You didn't go out, did you go out for a bond issue for Payne Road?
We did not.
All right, you funded it. Did you go out for a bond issue for Williams Road?
We did not.
Then why Ford Road?
I'm not saying we're going to go for bond issue. I don't know what we're going to do, but
Okay.
it takes away choices.
And more delays. I don't understand. It's been over a year. It's going to be 3 years. It's ridiculous. And the other,
That timeline's discussed by the engineer from day one.
it's not his timeline.
It is
because
his
if he had
timeline.
no,
He gave us his timeline.
is it your timeline, Mr. Gills?
If I could just interrupt. Engineer Gills, if I may, please.
Okay.
I think we need to just take a step back, and from certain perspectives, I see your frustration.
Yeah.
I understand and appreciate Commissioner Regovich's perspective. The timeline that we are on right now was based on available resources. I realize at the beginning of the year when we were talking about budgets and the state funding fell through, that was a shock to the system.
Yeah.
I had the advantage because I actually read the bridge and road reports. It was not a surprise to me, the cost and the magnitude. Had Engineer Gills, and he said this in previous meetings, had he had the funding at the time it was requested, Ford Road would be on the street right now to be getting delivered. I'm just trying to tie everything up and keep it, here's the timeline of discussions so that we don't argue over what you see,
Right.
what you see. Engineer Gills, I appreciate your letting me inject that, but I just wanted to keep this in a nice, neat, here's our tracking history of this discussion. The floor is yours, sir. Or did I say it all right there?
I think you said it all, at least enough for now.
Okay. Because then we have the performance audit written in there. I mean, what is the timeline for that? I mean, does that tie up if you don't find the money, or how does that
That's
work?
independent of everything else.
It will not affect the Ford Road project.
It's independent. That we don't know how long that process takes. That's dictated by the state.
So you won't wait for that result to fund the Ford Road project.
I don't anticipate. It depends how quick they get it done.
That's a non-answer answer. It just
You
adds
want me
to.
to give you the answer that I'm going to do in after the first of the year?
Yeah. Okay. You can understand our frustration on
I
this
do
side.
understand it. We want that road open. We do.
Okay.
We've committed. We've already done 2 of them, right?
Right, you have done 2 of them, but those 2, you have not said, well, there could be a bond issue or there could be a performance audit.
We looked at everything.
Okay.
We had an agreement previous the performance audit, and that didn't go through.
Well, we have to be careful about saying we have an agreement. No decisions, discussions, deliberations were made outside of public meetings. So I want to be absolutely abundantly clear, there were no agreements. There were discussions. I'm very sensitive to this constant use of agreements. That's going to get us in legal trouble. I'm looking at legal. Sir, am I saying this correctly?
That's correct. Any deliberations, discussions, and/or agreements have to be done during open meetings.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, forgive my interjecting,
No,
but it was necessary
interject.
to make sure that we don't get off into the weeds.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. I do have a question for Mr. Hackman, though. I'm asking, with the constant delays, if there's an accident, an illness, a fire, harm to human or property, and there's multiple delays because of that road closure, what is the liability of the county?
I don't like to speculate. However, I have stated you are correct in these meetings that it is the Board of Commissioners' responsibility to maintain the roads. There is exposure for not maintaining roads. And I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay, very, very good. I appreciate that. I want to make one other point before I go off that particular subject. And this is just general statement. And thank you, by the way, for answering my questions. As your commissioners are aware, myself and my colleagues or my neighbors have been here pretty much all the time since February of 2023. If we can't attend, we're watching. In fact, I recently watched some of the meetings previously before coming to this forum. I've listened to the commissioners. I've spoken to several of you individually. I've spoken to others in the room individually. And I just want to say, for the county employee that verbally accosted our neighbor in the elevator after last week's meeting and accused us ladies of being coached, and anyone who might think accordingly, please be notified that we are all well-informed, intelligent people, and we do our investigation and our reading, and before we come to these forums, and our opinions and our things that we speak on are from ourselves, not being coached by anybody on this dais or in the room or other locations either. And I think it's unprofessional and inappropriate that a county employee would corner one of our citizens and attack her verbally in the elevator and as she's walking down the hall out of the elevator. For the record, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else wishing? Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Bishop. Always the gentleman. Thank you.
Thank you. Gilda Spencer, 5580 Ford Road, Madison. Good morning. I'd like to, well, maybe it's afternoon now. I'd like to remind you of the things that I don't have, because I live on Ford Road. I don't have police service. When we had an incident going on out there, I called the township police. They told me they didn't have a cruiser. So then I called the sheriff's department, and they told me they won't come out because I'm a township resident. So that leaves us with nowhere, because we're like on an island out there. In order to get to us, if you go one way, you have to go through Perry and Leroy. If you go the other way, you have to go through Thompson and Leroy. So nobody wants to come because we're out of their jurisdiction. It happens to be the same way with the EMS. They'll come if you can get them there because they have to go so far. So Madison, which is where I pay my taxes, is a fully funded fire department and EMS. If you go to Perry, I believe they're fully funded EMS and fire department. If you go to Leroy, they have one full-time person and they're volunteers. If you go to Thompson, they're all volunteers. And I'm not saying that they're bad, but it takes time for all of them to get there and then to come to us. So we have issues with the EMS. We don't have any bus service for our kids for school. They still have not done anything about that. I have 4 families that have little kids. They're all elementary, dragging those kids out every morning, and every afternoon they got to go pick them up. And nobody seems to care about that or do anything about it. Now, I have to say, my grandson drives. He's high school. We did receive $500 for last year for gas. And when he graduates this spring, we will also get paid. But they have not put that forward to anybody else out there. Plus, they should be, I believe they're required by law to bus us. And I don't know why they don't have Lake Tran. When I talked to the assistant superintendent last spring, they were going to rent a van. They've not done that. So then, when our road was blocked, we were stranded there for over 3 hours. We couldn't get out, you couldn't get in. And if we would have had to have a rescue squad, I'm not sure how they would get to the bridge, because we lived where the truck was. It was right on the Leroy-Madison line. So they would have been just stuck there. You couldn't drive through anybody's fields, because we've done that before, but there was no way to do that. Where that truck was, it just literally blocked everything. We had one of the moms there, her son was at preschool. She couldn't get to him. My husband has a home health care aide. She couldn't leave. And she takes care of veterans, and she had to call and, tell them they got to figure out something else because she can't get there. And it was over 3 hours before that gentleman got his truck out. We also have on our road, when you just cross the Madison Township Leroy line, there's a home there for handicapped, and time matters to them, seconds matters to them. So however you get it, who gets there? Who gets there to help those kids? Because depending on where you are, that's who's going to come. So then I have a question for Mr. Gills. This is the first I've heard this. Are we replacing the bridge by Payne Hill?
Yes.
So if we replace the bridge by Payne Hill, Taylor Road is on the other side of it. So that would put me only having Blair Hill or Trask Road. And Blair Hill is going to close. It's not a matter of is it going to close, it's when it's going to close. So gentlemen, that leaves me Trask Road to get out, to get in, to do anything. So I guess I'm asking you, this needs to be addressed sooner than later. And I understand your reluctance, but we're stuck. I mean, we can't do anything. We can't get help. We can't call anybody. And I guess since I did not realize that Payne Hill, the bridge was going to go out, so what do we do? So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the board? Anyone else wishing to address the board at this time? All right. This brings us to a request for an executive session. The stated purpose is personnel compensation. There will be no business to be conducted afterwards. Do we have a motion to adjourn for the reasons so stated?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes. Thank you for joining us today.